The host of Rinkwide Vancouver, our Canucks reporter, Mr. Jeff Paterson. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, guys. And just back to Pizza for a sec. And with all due respect to Pizza, I prefer my pizza later rather than sooner. My family thinks I'm a complete monster in this, but I actually think I now like pizza the day after. And sometimes in the morning, cold pizza. And I get the craziest looks from my family members, but I mean, I'll still take a pizza hot out of the box, but I have quite taken to pizza the next day as well.
Old lasagna too. Old lasagna that's had a chance to really have the flavor seep in. Love old lasagna as well.
Well, we now have verbal instructions in my home. Honey, I am saving my last two pieces for tomorrow morning's breakfast. So I'm with you, Jeff. Great shout. We didn't get a chance to talk to you after Elias Paterson's big game. Actually, did we talk to? Yeah. Refresh me, Jeff. When did you co-host for? No. Yes, that's right.
I was there
thought
in
I
the
had that right.
build-up. I was there with you in the moments leading up to his game of the season.
I know, and I was sitting here going, what's he going to do for an encore? It was one shot on goal on three attempts. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, and part of a sad power play that we've seen way too often this season as well, where, you know, say what you will about the rebuilding Canucks and young players and everything else, power play, they load up, they put the best players on the ice, and they had a chance to open the scoring in the hockey game with the power play, did absolutely nothing, and at 4-1 late in the second period, they had a power play, and again, maybe did less than they did in the, so there were moments in that game where they came off a power play that scored twice the other night against the Florida Panthers. How did it score? By getting pucks to and on the net and ultimately in the net, and just 3 shots in 2 power plays last night, and Paterson was a big part of that. So, yeah, that's disappointing. I mean, again, in isolation, it was just one night, and it was. How's he going to follow up? Was there positive reinforcement, even at this stage of his career as he nears 500 points, that, hey, do those things, the fundamentals, and sometimes good things happen. And then it was just like, nope, he went back to sort of playing on the perimeter and, not wanting the puck, not commanding the puck. And we're talking about him. There's lots to go around on a night like last night. It's just so evident when you watch two teams at just starkly different stages of their competitive cycle. And the Bolts mean business, and they did. Although I have to say, and we've seen other teams do this come through Rogers Arena, where they really didn't have to be at the top of their game. They just had to be at a level that was better than the Canucks could match, and that's kind of how that game went last night.
They know where that switch is, right? They can flick it at any time. They know where it is, and when they reach it, we need to reach for it. They flick it as they did in the middle part of that period, of the first period, and then for the rest of the night, it was over. They are better judged, I think, against teams like Florida, the below the playoff bar teams, and there's lots more where that came from still in the remaining 14 games of the schedule. I think we can judge their effort, though, more accurately, and I'm a little disappointed in that too, Jeff. Like, I thought the legs could have been moving. I thought there could have been symbols of effort a little bit more than there was.
Yeah, and it looked and felt a lot like the Seattle game not that long ago, where the Canucks hang for 20 minutes, and they've shown throughout the season that they're capable of hanging with most teams for a period, but it's a 3-period game. And how many times, Matt, you mentioned it there, 3 goals, 5 minutes and 31 seconds in that second period, and the long change is the same for both teams, and yet Adam Foote has lamented second periods. He's lamented poor line changes. The fact that the Canucks get pinned in their own zone, they get running around. All they can do is flip the puck to center and maybe try to get a couple of guys off the ice. And we've seen this so many times where quick strikes by the opponents, mostly in that second period. And we pointed this out on Rinkwide last night that no team in the NHL has given up more goals in any period than the Vancouver Canucks have in the second. So they do stand alone in that regard as just a terrible second period team, and it is the same long change for both teams. But as opponents scout, like, these kinds of trends get picked up, and I think teams realize, like, just apply the pressure, and eventually the Canucks are going to buckle, and that is what happened. And Kevin Lankinen was good in the first period, but again, he can only do so much. That glove save was remarkable at 2-0. You thought maybe that would give them some sort of wake-up call and a boost. The timeout, whatever. Game, it gets to garbage time at 4-0, and at that point, anything they do after that I think has to be viewed through that lens that, all right, they chipped away, but I don't think Tampa was ever frightened, even when it was a 4-2 hockey game for, 34 seconds or whatever it was there in the third period.
And Jeff, this brings in an oddity that, I sit here and I just can't believe it. Have not won consecutive games on Rogers Arena ice since March 7th of last year. 3 games left on this 8-game homestand, and then just 2 consecutive games in the month of April with a Utah-Vegas do-si-do. Are we wrapping our heads around the fact that Canucks may go a full season without stringing together 2 straight wins on home ice?
Oh, I think so. I think you have to be prepared for that now. Now, they got a St. Louis team that is in their neighborhood, although has been better since the Olympic break. So, you can't start the streak without the first one. So that's where they are on Saturday, and then take your chances after that. But beyond that, Matt, I think you have to wrap your head around the fact, too, that with 6 home games remaining, they have 8 wins all season on home ice. Like, they may not get to 10 wins. They may not reach double digits in home ice victories over a 41 home game slate. And so there have been so many ways to come at this season. But yeah, some of these home ice records, the futility, it is wild to think that they can't win back-to-back games, that on one half of that equation, one of their players rises up and has a big game. And on the next one, the power play comes through for them, or they run into leaky goaltending on the other side, or officiating that works in their favor. Like, there are so many factors at play here. I've thought about this a number of times through the season, and it just blows your mind that all of these things haven't come together once that would allow them to post back-to-back victories at the Rocks.
Everything needs to go right for this team, right? Planets need to align for this team to win a single hockey game. And then asking for those planets to align again for a second straight night, it's a lot to ask. All that being said, one guy still found a way onto the score sheet a couple of times, and that is Marco Rossi. And on a night-to-night basis, when you look back on 100-point seasons for Elias Paterson and further back into Canucks history as well, that's what happens with those kinds of seasons. Is even on that player's or that team's bad nights, that player finds a way to get onto the score sheet. And I'm not predicting that Marco Rossi blossoms into a 100-point season player, but it's a really good sign that he's just finding a way to make a little bit of a difference on a nightly basis on a pretty bad team.
I hear you. I'm not sure I can get there last night because the underlying numbers were so cruel to the bro line. The Bros weren't bros last night. I know that they had the Canucks' first goal. That was their first shot attempt. It wound up in the back of the net late in the second period. Otherwise, and they were hard matched, just the way that the Canucks tried to work their bench to match up against Kucherov. That line of Rossi with Besser and Ogren basically saw a steady diet of Jake Gensel and Braden Point, and it was a complete mismatch there. So you're right. At the end of a season, when a guy racks up points, there have to be nights like that. And Marco Rossi has been productive. 12 points in 8 games in this season, in this economy. Come on. So, yeah, I do want to give him the credit. He got a fortunate bounce last night that wound up on his stick and ultimately gets the assist on the Carlsson goal. You think back late in the Seattle game, Jamie Alexiak just coughed up. We were talking pizza earlier, right to Rossi with 20 seconds left in the hockey game. But they all go on his record at the end of the season, and they're not in isolation. They're sort of toppers on nights where he's picking up other points along the way. So, yeah, on a night last night and in a season where so little has gone right for the Vancouver Canucks, I think it's fair to praise. He's healthy, he's looking confident, and there is some undeniable chemistry there that with now 14 games to go in the season, I do think you have to look at that trio with an eye to next year. And as they go into the offseason and try to figure out their roster, if that's a constant that they can have on a whiteboard somewhere at Rogers Arena, that, hey, there's a line that, it worked, the proof of concept is in place. We're going to start the season. I'm not saying that those 3 guys will play together all of next year. But, yeah, it feels like a little building block at the very least with an eye to next year.
a starting point in September at the very least, right?
Yeah.
And it's just nice to see that they have a player too. Like you talked about, turnover. Jeff, there's a lot of players on this roster that, given a pizza, would not be able to deliver it. And it's just nice to know that there is a player on this team that can deliver after getting that giveaway. And again, yeah, you're right. Small building block for the future.
Yeah, another building block is Linus Karlsson, and we mentioned it earlier. Jeff saw your tweet. He scores a goal last night. Now he's -2, but he scores a goal last night, and he plays nearly 16 minutes. And we had your stat about where he ranks in terms of scorers in the National Hockey League, given his time on ice. The 16 minutes is decent, but are you up for more duty for Linus Karlsson going forward here in what's left of the schedule?
Well, I think so. With 14 games remaining, yeah. Why not? I mean, the guy has shown in snack sizes that he has been productive, and I think he has earned the opportunity. Right now they're looking. We're not going to touch the bro line. We just talked about those guys, so it's a question of if you want to move them all the way to the top. And maybe that bro line has now emerged as the top line for the Vancouver Canucks. But if you're going to put Carlsson back with Elias Paterson. Drew O'Connor's had a nice season. He's earned opportunities there, and I kind of feel like they're trying to get Jake DeBrusk going down the stretch here, whether for his own good or to boost his value if they go to the trade market in the offseason. But one of those guys would have to come off that line to make room for Linus Karlsson. Karlsson found himself on a line with Teddy Bluger and Max Sasson last night, and again, they drew the hard matchup against one of the best players in the NHL, but certainly the most productive player in the NHL since Christmas, just scoring at an outrageous rate. So that was always going to be a really difficult assignment. I got to thinking about Linus Karlsson, guys, and help me out here. I would think that the Vancouver Canucks would hold him up now as the poster boy for their development program. A guy that came through Abbotsford, got taste in the NHL, spent most of last season in Abbotsford, obviously had a great run to the Calder Cup, and then has graduated. And I think that's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? Like, good on Linus Karlsson. They have developed him into an everyday 30-point player in the National Hockey League. But if that's the high watermark for development, we're at a point in time, we talked about where the Canucks are, like, they're going to have all these draft picks coming. And they just simply have to, like, we've talked about their failure in second rounds, really outside of Mason Raymond and Thatcher Demko this century. They can't afford to miss. They've loaded up on all these second rounders. They have to make the right selection and then develop those guys into not just NHLers, but they need one of them to pop somewhere along the line, or maybe two of them to pop. And so I think it's instructive that good on Linus Karlsson. He's put in the work. He's graduated to the National Hockey League. He got his extension. But they need better examples over the next 5 years of the development program. And I think Jonathan Lekkerimäki's in that system right now, but the jury is still out ultimately on where he tops out in all of this.
Yep, absolutely right. Moving on. The draft lottery and our daily poll question. I've seen you've answered it on X already. Would winning the draft lottery be the biggest day in Canucks history? And you're voting no because you're pointing to another big draft day move. Talk to us.
Wow, when you don't have a Stanley Cup on display in your home building and the banner to go along with it, obviously you're grasping for the greatest day in franchise history. Now, they've had 2 seventh games with a chance to win the Stanley Cup. Those would be on a list, but they didn't go the way the Canucks wanted. I looked at the day that Brian Burke did the draft floor maneuvering in Boston in 1999 to land the Sedins, that then set up the next decade plus and produced a pair of Hall of Famers. I would also suggest the day that the Canucks were able to wrangle Pat Quinn away from the Los Angeles Kings to set up another decade or so of prominence for the Vancouver Canucks, dare I say excellence, but it too didn't result in a championship. But I would look at those days as sort of pivotal days in the history of the Vancouver Canucks. But I get, like, optically, yes, for a team that's never had the first overall pick, that has had nothing but shitty luck when it comes to the lottery balls, winning it would represent something at the very least. But there's also the uncertainty that just getting the first overall pick, not every first overall pick is equal. We're on a nice run right now, first overalls with Bedard and Celebrini and Matthew Schaefer doing his thing, and really the last decade when you go back to Matthews and McDavid. But that doesn't guarantee that every year you're going to get. I always think about the Ottawa Senators. And with all due respect to Chris Phillips, who had a terrific, long, productive NHL career, but that year he just happened to be the guy that went first overall. And I know I'm going back 30 years here, but you can get Nail Yakupov as well. There are more recent examples. So just getting the first overall pick, having the lottery balls go your way, sure, it would be fun in the moment. But, I mean, really, it's just the start of a process that has to pan out for the Vancouver Canucks, and it's premature to call that, in my mind, the greatest day in franchise history.
Yeah.
Well, the element of luck it makes this a different question too, right? Because every other decision we talk about, every other day that we talk about is usually the result of the decision of ultimately one person. And Canucks fans as a collective then have to follow in line. They experience because of one man's decision. This is just dumb luck. This is and for that reason, there's a different element here. And after over 50 years of waiting, this could tell the tale here, depending on how much you believe these players differentiate from each other. Stenberg v. McKenna v. whoever. This could tell the tale for the next 20 years of Canucks existence here. And for that reason, Jeff, it feels like this could be the most anticipated moment, because we've had this team in a decent lottery position in years gone past. Remember, we were down at the Pint for one of the lottery days.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But the Canucks were not at the depths they are now, and less of a chance to win that first overall. They need this one, Jeff. Like this is needed here.
I hear you, and we talk about this on pretty much a daily basis because there's no whole lot else to talk about with this team right now. But I still think we all have to brace ourselves. Lotteries are by design set up to produce far more losers than winners. I mean, that's just the nature of what a lottery is. And so even though you have the best odds, you still don't have good odds. And are the Canucks overdue to have the first overall pick? Yeah, 55, 56 years of existence, as bad as they've been over the last decade plus. It is wild that through all of the failure of the franchise, that they have never been the first team to the podium to make a selection. So they are so long overdue. And yes, maybe Lady Luck needs, it's time that she shines on the Vancouver Canucks. But I still maintain people have to understand in the euphoria, if the lottery balls present the numbers, the winning combination for the Vancouver Canucks, you have to recognize that it's a 25% chance of winning, and it's 75% chance that you will not be the team that has the first selection in this draft. So it's stacked against all teams. Again, that's just what a lottery is.
Yeah, less than 43% chance. 56% chance of picking third versus 43 for the first two. Jeff, you got an afternoon affair against the St. Louis Blues tomorrow. Then you're in with me next week, filling in for Blake. So look forward to it already. Have a good show. We'll talk to you Monday.
Yeah, nobody seems to know why it's a 4:00 start against the St. Louis Blues, but it is. It's next gen day. Youth is being served, not just on the ice, but around the building. They'll have a kid PA announcer and other young people in positions of game presentation. They always do that. And I'm not in the business of marketing Canuck games, but these two teams have the worst goal differentials in the National Hockey League. So it's misery loves company. There may be some offense in this one.
That's a great tease, Jeff. Goals. And it's a 4:00 because Hockey Night wants it buried upside the Battle of Ontario. They want Lightning and Oilers to stand alone as the late game tomorrow. They envisioned this months ago, Jeff.
That may be the simple answer, is just clear a path for the Oilers and McDavid Kucherov. Right. Whatever the case, yes, they will play. And hey, we're getting a little early start on Rinkwide, and I'm okay with that.
I'm sure. And someone will win. Thank you, Jeff. Until Monday.
All right, guys.